Hey everyone, what's up? This is Dr. Charlie Johnson, a physical therapist. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the first and arguably most important step to relieving your back, butt, and or sciatica pain, piriformis syndrome, sciatica, and other things that cause pain in this area. And this is in my experience. Now, I've worked with over 10,000 people with back, butt, and sciatica issues. So I know a few things about this, but life is learning. And so I don't claim to know everything. I just claim to have picked up a few nuggets along the way. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how to get better faster by doing less. Wouldn't that be cool if you could do less and get better faster? All right. So in this training, the first step to relieving pain that doesn't involve stretching, strengthening, or fancy equipment, we're going to talk about what that is. It's super simple. And as you'll learn, it just makes sense. We're going to talk about how to translate your X-ray and MRI findings, which you probably don't understand anyway. And maybe that's how you made it to this video, because you're searching piriformis syndrome, sciatica, herniated disc, arthritis, stenosis, all this stuff. We're going to take that stuff, right, and translate it into something you can see, feel, and actually understand, like you can sink your teeth into, make sense of, all right? And this is basically what we call your movement diagnosis. You will leave this training with your movement diagnosis, all right? And then I want to teach you how to self-assess. So we're going to walk through a simple self-assessment. There's 6 different motions, basically 13, 14 different motions in total, where we're going to help you basically connect the dots and truly, like, deeply understand why you hurt, when you hurt, and where you should begin your recovery. So this way there's no more questioning involved. Instead of wondering why you're doing what you're doing, you'll actually have sort of a game plan at the end of this video. I also want to share with you my exact process I call morphing motions, which you can use to reverse engineer painful or yucky motions and identify what not to do. All right. And then we're going to share the next steps beyond this training if you want to heal naturally and avoid pills, shots, or surgery. So this is going to be a game changer for you if you've tried many treatments and they have not worked, and or they have worked, but it only temporarily, right? The relief never really sticks. Maybe you're tired of relying on others to fix you. Probably think that it would be cool to fix yourself, right? Who wouldn't think that was cool to you have this body of yours, right? And rather than having to go somewhere to have someone kind of put it back in alignment or fix you or do whatever they say they're doing to you, what if you could fix yourself? And then if you want to heal naturally without pills, shots, or surgery, again, this is perfect for you. All right. So healing by subtraction. This is completely opposite of what most people recommend when it comes to solving back, butt, or sciatica problems, or really any pain for that problem. We're always asking, what can I do? Charlie, what exercises can I do for piriformis syndrome, for sciatica, for whatever? But what if you ask, what can I not do? Right? And I actually think there's more value in this. So we're going to actually help you heal by subtraction. This is the first step to resolving these very painful problems. All right. So the process I'm about to teach you, take notes, go back, watch this, slow me down, because I know I get excited and I speak fast, but is very powerful, like super powerful and super empowering. Rather than you, again, relying on someone else, you're going to be able to go inside and say, wow, I kind of get what I'm doing and why, and it makes sense. And I'm going to put it in a way that makes sense to you rather than all the kind of big, scary words out there. We're going to make it super simple. Very important as well, because as the old saying goes, and this is sort of the premise behind healing by subtraction, is that you can't out-exercise a bad diet. Do you agree that you cannot out-exercise a bad diet, right? If you run on the treadmill, but you continue to eat donuts while you're on the treadmill, or you run on the treadmill for 30 minutes, for an hour, 2 hours, but then the rest of the day, you're eating junk food, do you really think there's a scenario where you could out-exercise that? Well, maybe there is, but my guess is most of you would agree that it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so if you agree that running on a treadmill while you're eating a donut and trying to out-exercise the bad diet doesn't really make sense and probably wouldn't get you the results you're looking for, then you can probably also agree that neither does trying to out-exercise a yucky environment that is keeping you from healing. So if you got a yucky healing environment, you can go get your back cracked, you can go, decompression DRX 9000 machine, but then you go back to your car, back to your routines, back to your habits, and things you just don't know that are keeping you from healing. We've got to start there, and then we can talk about all the other stuff that you can do. But don't devalue this, all right? So this is why I never begin by giving people exercise to relieve their back, butt, or sciatica pain. I just never start there. For anybody who has worked with me and or who will work with me in the future, you will not see exercise as the first recommendation, right? That's what we call healing by addition, which is doing more when really we want to start by doing less so that we can be scientific, systematic, and get clarity about where you're beginning. And again, that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to add a bunch of exercises on top of an environment which is not going to allow you to heal mentally or physically. Today, we're going to touch on the physical part, all right? So in other words, if you're doing a bunch of random exercises like this, the pelvic tilts, the marching on your back, the dead bugs, the back bends, right? The Mackenzie press-ups, the figure 4 stretches, the trunk twists, the glute bridges, all these different things, then you're going to have a hard time healing, especially if it's in the presence of a yucky healing environment. Not to mention, if you're doing 6 things at once, you're probably missing the boat. And we're going to talk about, again, why here in a little bit. All right, so if you're doing those things and you have not been given the knowledge to apply the concept I'm about to teach you, then I pretty much guarantee your pain will keep coming back. And if it doesn't, you're one of the lucky few. But this is why you feel good when you get treatment, but then your problem always returns. Healing by subtraction is the first step to natural relief. I believe, in my experience, it is the key to healing, and it's so much simpler. Again, less is more. So much simpler than just trying all kinds of things to add to your plate. All right. So you want to think of it like this. So if you have a scale, right, on one side you've got pain, on the other side you've got healing. On the pain side, right, you've got kind of these yucky stuff weighing you down. We'll call this life, habits, routines, the way you sleep, the way you move, beliefs, worries, concerns, all that stuff. I'll flash that up here in a second. And then on the other side, you've got all this yummy stuff, right? And this is where most people try to focus their treatment. You're trying to tip the scale towards healing, and you can do it in 2 ways. Again, most people want to do more. What exercises should I do, Charlie, to solve this problem? What should I do? Not what should I not do? Notice the difference there. All right, so I challenge you to kind of flip the conversation into the questions that you're asking to yourself and then also to your providers. And it's not your fault because providers do this as well. If you go to the PT or you go to the chiropractor, when something's not working, what do? They keep adding stuff on top of that with the thought and the belief that, hey, the more I do, the better the chance I'll have of solving this. But the more you do, the more confused you'll be. What if I told you that doing less will actually give you more clarity? So this is where everybody's focusing their stuff. When they go to one doctor and then one doctor can't figure it out, they go somewhere else. And when one X-ray doesn't find something, they get another X-ray or another MRI or another test. Doctor to doctor, test to test, exercise to exercise, treatment to treatment. Do more. But I think you would also agree that you could just as easily de-weight the left side of the scale here and remove the yucky inputs. All right, yucky inputs being, again, the way you move, the way you position your body, your beliefs, thoughts, worries, concerns, life. But again, if we can subtract these yucky inputs, then the scale naturally begins to tip towards healing. Instead of doing that whole sheet of exercises, 6, 7, 8, 10 different things, that folder you have with all kinds of papers shoved in there with stick figures drawn on it, what if you could just do one thing then? Because all you have to do now, if you're looking at the screen to tip this scale, you just need to tap it a little bit on the right side. Most people respond to just one motion to solve the problem, one positive input when you remove all the negative ones, all the yucky inputs. Keep that in mind as context for this conversation. So again, what not to do is oftentimes what more important than what to do. This is a process. We work with people all around the world. We teach people, again, with back, butt, and sciatic problems how to naturally relieve their pain using the power of their body and mind, all right? And how to use that stuff as medicine, all right, to naturally heal. And this is the process that we teach people. So we first teach people to optimize the environment. This is where we're going to start and talk a little bit about today on the physical side of things. But notice this is where everybody wants to start. You're probably looking for the exercises to relieve your back, butt, sciatica, piriformis syndrome issue. But in the presence of a yucky healing environment, again, look at that little kind of pink smiley or frown face, sorry, over there, weighing down that scale and keeping you stuck in pain. All right, so by the way, if you're interested in seeing if we can help you out as we go through this process, right, and you think, wow, this is really cool how he sort of decodes everything and sort of lays everything out in a way that actually makes sense, and I could see myself, wanting to get a hold of this process to relieve my pain, then just go ahead, click the link somewhere in the description to apply to work with us. Basically, we have you submit a case review. I will review it personally. If we don't feel we can help, well, I'll just let you know. All right, now how are we going to begin this process of healing by subtraction, knowing what to do? Well, we're going to use movement. What's really cool is that your pain experience is made up of both an interaction between your body and your mind. All right, and so when you move certain ways, it might hurt. That tells your mind and your brain, hey, movement is not safe, or don't do that. The less you move, right? The more you reinforce to your brain that movement is bad, The more you believe movement is bad, the less you move, etc., right? And so your pain experience is more than that of just what's found on an X-ray or an MRI, but it's an interaction between your brain and your body. And so in this video, we're going to talk about, again, how you can use movement to start to break things down, translate that medical diagnosis, that thing on the picture, into something that makes sense, all right? Because my guess is that coming into this training, coming into this video, right, you're very glued in this idea of like, hey, if I can just get an X-ray, get an MRI, figure out and or diagnose something, then I can treat that thing. But that's what they want you to believe, all right? Science and research suggests otherwise. We know that lots of people have images that might look like this and feel no pain. So then how do we differentiate between what is normal, what is abnormal? By the way, you probably can't understand this. And here's the interesting thing. You go to 10 different radiologists and you have them review this report, and they will give you probably 10 different explanations for what could be going on and what could be the cause of this person's pain and or the problem that this person might be experiencing. You'll get different findings depending on who you go to see, because it's all based off their experience and their bias. All right. So we know that X-rays and MRIs, they do not accurately sort of measure and or they cannot tell us accurately what is the cause of pain. They just pick up all kinds of different stuff. And so this disempowers you. It exists outside of you, and it's really hard to try to fix that. Heck, it's hard for spine surgeons to fix this, because we know the success rate of spine surgery is not very great. So how can we take that which you can't really understand, which is outside of you, and translate it into something that you can, again, see, feel, and totally experience? And something that just makes sense, something that's unique and native to you. Well, we can use your movement system. So we're going to translate this medical diagnosis into something you can see, feel, and understand and experience, right? Into a movement diagnosis. And we're going to do that, again, by using movement through a process of self-assessment that I call the total body scan. All right? Believe it or not, you can assess yourself better than most physicians can assess themselves. Don't believe me? Who's the one in pain? You're the one in pain. So rather than doing something, explaining to someone what you feel and what happens when you do something, why not just do it for yourself and record it? So what I like to do is I like to walk people through these 6 different motions, just a variety of motions that catch kind of lots of different experiences with motion. You may find motions that make you feel better. You may find motions that make you feel worse. Yucky motions, yummy motions, right? Motions that don't do anything at all. It doesn't really matter, but these 6 motions make up the total body scan. And the purpose of this sort of self-assessment or scan is not to flare you up. So it's simply to help us explore, and you explore, how your body responds to different inputs or movements, right? So you don't have to push through pain. You're simply just looking for the motions that are yucky. And when I say yucky motions, motions that increase or reproduce your specific pain or problem. If a motion is not yucky, then inherently the opposite of yucky is yummy. So by default, it would be yummy. So we're now going to go through this, and I would recommend that you do go through this with me, but you can always slow this down. There's probably going to be some chapters or things that break this video up, so you can go back to each of these. But either way, go through this process and just record the motion or the motions that are yucky, that reproduce your specific back, butt, sciatica type pain. All right, go slowly through the process. Remember, the goal is not to flare you up. It's just to begin testing your response to movement. So we're going to do this on the right and left side of the body. So start by taking a seat and twisting your trunk to the right. Twist your trunk to the right. By the way, probably below this video, if you want, drop your yucky motion below this video in the comment. All right, let me know, what are your yucky motions? And maybe just pick the yuckiest motion. So as you go through this process, find the yuckiest motion. Once or twice, twist your trunk to the right. Is it yucky or not? Then let's go ahead and twist your body to the left. There's no perfect right or wrong way to do this. Just twist your body to the left. If your leg wants to fall like mine wanted to fall, it's totally fine. Is it yucky or not? Next, pull your right knee to your chest. You can relax back in your chair. Pull your right knee to your chest. Is it yucky? Then pull your left knee to your chest. How does that feel? Yucky or not? Next, put your right ankle on your left knee. We'll call this a sock test, or a toenail test, or a cleaning the bottom of your toes test. All right, motion, a lot of times we move our feet into, or our legs into, to put on our shoes, put on our socks, things like that. Is it yucky on the right side? Figure 4 on the left. Is it yucky or not? Next, again, in a seated position still, we're going to test leg raises. This is what you could say is an active straight leg raise, meaning you are doing it, not me, obviously. But this is a really good screening test to tell if you have sciatica, by the way. So just know, if you have pain, numbness, tingling going down the leg, chances are you will have a yucky leg raise on one or both sides. But to do this test, start with your legs straight on the ground, and then just raise it up Go slowly. Raise it up as high as you comfortably can. Stop when you need to. Remember, the whole goal is just yucky or not. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the left side. Start with your left heel on the ground. Raise it up. Yucky or not. Next, you're going to bend your body forward. So we're going to assess forward motions and your response to that. If you don't feel comfortable kind of doing it unsupported, just reaching towards the ground, just put your hands on your knees and support your body as you bend forward. Stop when you need to. Remember, yucky or not. That's all we're going for. Okay? Now we're going to go to the right side. So take your hands, put them on top of your right knee, bend forward to the right, over top of the right knee. Bend forward to the left. Again, you're recording yucky motions. How is that diagnosis or thing you've been told is wrong with you showing up in your life? Translate it to a movement diagnosis. Right? Now it's time to stand up. So we did a bunch of things seated. Now you're just going to stand up. Put your feet in a comfy position. Put your hands wherever you want them. And just bend back. Is it yucky or not? So this is straight back. Now we're going to do something we call a rotation extension test. A quadrant test, all right? If you want to be very medically and fancy. All right, but a rotation, rotate to the right first, bend straight back. Is it yucky or not? Now to the left. Rotate, and then back. And that's actually a little bit yucky. I got a little bit of a pinch on the left side. So that's my yucky motion. Again, feel free to comment your yucky motion below. Stop. There you have it. That's it. That is the self-assessment. All right, so again, 6 different motions down on the right and left side of the body. I don't know, there's like 13 or 14 of them. And so did you identify any clear, consistent yucky motions going through that process? Because here's the cool thing. We know that a problem that is clearly reproducible with motion is almost always reducible with motion. If I have a certain motion with my shoulder that consistently hurts, now, sort of like trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube, I just got to find the input, the motion that I can use upon systematic testing to improve that. So if it's reproducible with motion, it's almost always reducible with motion. And so if you've identified some clear yucky motions, then this begins to define your movement diagnosis. When I do this motion or thing, it hurts. That's it. See, I said I would make it simple. And maybe people think this is too simple. But I'm telling you, making this more complicated than it needs to be and believing that your problem is so complicated, you need some complicated solution, probably is not going to serve you very well. All right. So if we can simplify what seems like a very complex solution, then we can actually sink our teeth into it, right, and start to take action steps moving forward. So instead of, I have a grade 1 anterior listhesis with moderate lateral recess spinal stenosis, your medical diagnosis, chances are, again, you don't understand all the things written on that summary sheet of what was found. Hence why you're Googling things or YouTubing things or whatever. And that stuff's scary, right? But it's actually quite normal for people, all right? And so instead of using these hieroglyphics, that medical diagnosis, which you don't really understand, to kind of be what you follow and use to navigate your healing journey, something you don't really understand, you have a yucky leg raise. You have a yucky leg raise. That is your diagnosis. Your movement diagnosis is you have a yucky leg raise. Instead of you have a herniated disc, you have a yucky leg raise. Keep watching. We're going to talk about how this shows up in life and what you can do about it, all right? If you did not clearly identify yucky motions and have a difficult time pinpointing what makes your pain better or worse, that is okay and actually very common. About 60% of the people that work with us say, Charlie, I don't think you can help me because I don't have motions that clearly reproduce this. Or sometimes they hurt, sometimes they're not. They don't. That is okay. No big deal. But I am going to link to a video to help you out. All right. Now, here's the cool thing. Whether you know it or not, your yucky motions are showing up in your life. And it's keeping you from getting better. And it's usually in ways that you just do not know you do not know. So you ever hear the saying, you don't know what you don't know? This is one of the times. All right. And just by knowing your yucky motions, it's easy to predict which activities you will have trouble with. And by knowing the activities you have trouble with, it's easy to reverse engineer that and predict the motions that will be yucky. Tell me your yucky motions, and I will tell you what you cannot do. That kind of idea, right? So let me explain and make this very clear. Here's the power in all of this, all right? So to make this super clear, let's just say that your leg raise is a yucky motion or your yuckiest motion. This yucky movement shows up in life, and it looks like this. You can see that form, take that shape of the leg raise. And now you're saying to yourself, man, I wonder why I have trouble sitting and stretching my legs out on the recliner. Or why can't I drive? Man, if only I could get back to driving. Because you got a yucky leg raise. You got a yucky leg raise. You can't do any of those things because those things are leg raises. Picking things up, sleeping, sprinting, running. These are the things you're told to do, but they're really just multiplying yucky over and over again. You cannot kayak if you have a yucky leg raise. It's going to be hard to bend over and pick something up, right? If you have a yucky leg raise, and vice versa, all right? So again, if the leg raise is locked, it's going to limit your ability to live life. So if we work on improving the leg raise and find ways to make it less yucky by using brain and body, in this video, body strategies, then you can unlock your ability to live life. So free up the leg raise, free up everything else around it. So let's take this a step further, all right? The process of understanding how these yucky motions translate in your life is what I call morphing motions. I didn't come up with this, my wife came up with this, but it's a very good name. And it just makes sense. It's so logical. Understanding the concept of morphing motions allows you to see the world in motion like I do. And I know that if you can start to think like me, then you can start to take actions consistent with the way that I would take them, and you can start to resolve your pain. No question. Morphing motions starts by asking yourself a very insightful and super simple, straightforward question. All right? Here it is. How are my yucky motions showing up in life? So instead of being like, hey, I've got this disc problem, I got to figure out how to fix it, and I don't know how, completely disempowered and confused, you now boil that down through self-assessment. Now you say, hey, instead of a disc problem or whatever problem, because most doctors can't agree upon what the heck is causing these problems anyway, I have a yucky leg raise. I have a yucky knee to chest. Now you can take it a step further and say, how is my yucky knee to chest? How is my yucky back bend? How is my yucky leg raise showing up in life? Very good question. Another way to think of it is, what am I doing that places me in this yucky leg raise, in this yucky knee to chest, in these yucky positions? So investigating the answer to these questions allows you to connect the dots between what hurts, why you hurt, and when you hurt. Plus, it reveals what activities, habits, or positions you need to change in order to optimize your healing environment and do what I call healing by subtraction. Let's take a look at each of the total body scan motions and reveal how they show up in life. So if you have more than one yucky motion, which many of you watching this will have more than one yucky motion, you might have all yucky motions. You might say, Charlie, I can't do anything because everything's yucky. That's okay. There's still a way to solve your problem, all right? Or you might say, I have no yucky motions. That's fine. Watch for context. But if you have more than one yucky motion, then just pick the yuckiest one and follow along. All right, here we go. So let's begin. Here is the first total body scan motion. You'll start to see how this all connects, all right? The trunk twist. We did this on the right and the left side of the body in seated. And here are a few ways to illustrate how it morphs or shows up in life. These are the things you got to look out for. So if you have a yucky right trunk twist, then my guess is you're doing something in your life which is nicking the scab and keeping you from getting better because you're twisting. Now, you can't avoid all twisting, right? But what are you doing habitually that might be putting you into this yucky right trunk twist? In this case, in this picture. Or left trunk twist. Maybe it's the way you're positioned while you're working on the computer. Maybe you're sitting straight on your computer, but the printer's over to your right. Or your coworker's over to your right. Or the phone's over to the right. Or the water bottle's over to the right. Or the trash bin. Or maybe you do work in a factory setting or something like that. You're constantly twisting to the right. Maybe you're right-handed and, I don't know, you're a construction worker or something like that. And you have a habit of just doing things a certain way. I don't know. Take the concept and apply it to your own situation. Maybe you sleep in a funky position that causes some type of pelvic rotation or twist. Not that that is a bad thing per se, but if your spine is sensitive to it in the moment, and that is driving some of the pain experience, then we're going to want to analyze that. Maybe you're doing an exercise like this because you were told it was the right thing to do, but maybe it's making you worse. Or maybe you sleep like this. Maybe you sleep with your legs cockety-eyed to one side and your trunk is twisted. Again, there's nothing inherently bad about the trunk twist. But if your movement pain relationship is such that twisting is a yucky motion, then you need to ask yourself, how is that thing showing up in life? Now, here's the interesting thing. You might be willingly paying, taking your hard-earned money and paying someone to force you further into yuckiness. And you don't even know it. And they don't even know it because they don't have the experience and or the understanding of these concepts. right? So if you go to a chiropractor, before you walk in their door, twist right and twist left. And if you have yuckiness with a right trunk twist or a left trunk twist, and they're putting you into this and you're grimacing when they're doing it, then you may be paying them, but they may actually be keeping you from healing. All right? So you're paying to stay stuck in pain. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now you could argue, okay, well, that was yucky, Charlie. My neck wouldn't turn and ow, ow, and it felt better. You can do that if you want, but the risk is much higher that if you're forcing yourself intentionally or someone else is forcing you intentionally into yuckiness, that multiplying yuckiness is just going to make you feel more yucky, more in pain. I'd say about 5% of people actually respond to going into motions that make them feel yucky. Everyone else, yummy motions. So again, if trunk twist is yucky, begin to think of times in your life, throughout your workday, while at the gym, etc., you're positioned in a twist. Now let's talk about a knee to chest and C4 bend. And you might say, why are we doing two at once? They're the same thing. Slightly different, but same idea. Right? So for example, knee to chest. You can see the shape or the form. I love stick figures, these little lines. It just makes it so easy to understand. So you've got knee to chest, your hip moving from below, your back doesn't really move at all. Or you got forward bend, your hip doesn't move, but your back bends forward. And you can see that they're very similar. If I were to take this person, fold them up, they're folded already, and I was to stand them upright, right, it would look very similar to this, a knee to chest. So because they're the same form, if you will, they move the body in the same position relatively, one from above, one from below, we're going to treat them the same. They're going to show up in a very similar way. All right. So for example, knee to chest. If you got a yucky knee to chest and you're sitting there leaning in doing your work all day, that's a yucky knee to chest. All right. You're putting yourself intentionally, knowingly or unknowingly, probably a habit you don't know, and make yourself worse. If you're sitting in a bucket seat car, that's closer to a knee to chest. If you sleep in a fetal position, knee to chest. If you're on all fours, right, doing yoga because this is what you heard you should do because, you know, this is the top exercise for spinal stenosis, but you got a yucky knee to chest, you got to make yourself worse. Let's just say you got, you have a habit of reading in bed at night down here. Yep, you're putting yourself in a knee to chest, squatting, lunging, all those things. A knee to chest in disguise. And just like I said before, the coolest thing is you can flip this on its head. If somebody says to me, Charlie, I have trouble sitting, I pretty much guarantee you can have a yucky knee to chest. Either yucky knee to chest, yucky forward bend, or yucky leg raise. And probably a yucky figure four too. Now let's talk about the figure four. A little bit of rotation in the mix, right? Sort of similar to knee to chest. It moves you in that direction, but a little bit of a twist. If you have a yucky figure four, you may sit in a funky position with your legs crossed, crisscross applesauce. You may be sideswept on the couch when you're watching Netflix at night. You may be doing piriformis stretches because that's what everybody does for piriformis syndrome, right? Wrong. Pigeon pose, because again, yoga's good and you need to do hip openers. No, you don't. It's a bad idea. Maybe you cross your legs like this or cross your legs like this. Can you see the similarity? Maybe you stand in tree pose, or you work standing, because sitting is the new smoking, right? It's not. But because, again, you have this belief system, now you use the standing desk all day and you shift your weight one way or the other. You're kind of moving yourself close to that cross-legged position. That is kind of how the figure four would show up in your life. Maybe, again, your leg is relatively kind of crossed over, closer to midline, because your trunk is twisted one way versus the other. All these are sort of moving you closer to that yucky motion. Again, tell me your activity you have trouble with, and I can probably tell you your yucky motion. All right, it just makes sense. Here's a picture of a woman, a chiropractor, stretching out someone's hip. If I was a fly on the wall back there, right, this person came in and they had a yucky motion, which they probably do if they have piriformis syndrome or sciatica, if their figure four was the yucky motion. If I was a fly on the wall over there, I'd be like flipping out. I'd be beating my wings so fast, like the leaves would be falling off that tree. Because I'd be like, stop, yucky motion. Hello, don't do that. And again, you might be paying someone. And this is the crazy thing. If you're not careful of who you see to resolve this pain problem, then the wrong exercises can make you worse. And so just blindly trusting someone to solve this when they're not a specialist, when they're a generalist, or just going to someone because they're the cheapest person in town, that could set you back. Hey, I've got a yucky figure four. Let's just stretch further into it because that's what everybody does. That doesn't take thinking. Don't mistake like education for intelligence, all right? This person can recite all kinds of different protocols for treating certain things, but intelligence would be the act of kind of reasoning through what's best for the person in front of them. And so my aim is to help equip you with some of this knowledge, some of these tools, some of these ways of viewing things, So you can go on and be like, hey, that's a bad idea. Or again, if you're interested in working with me, I'd be happy to review your case. Check the link in the comments, all right? All right, leg raise. This is the shape of a leg raise. Do you have a yucky leg raise on one or both sides? Well, again, there's no way that you're going to be able to sit with your legs stretched out. There's no way you're going to be able to sit in that kayak. You might be in the bathtub. I don't have that on here. It's kind of weird taking a picture of myself in the bathtub, all right? But you might be sitting in the bathtub doing an Epsom salt bath or whatever they call it. It just feels so good, Charlie. I heard this was best for me. I went to the salt cave, and I heard if I did this thing, it would solve my problem. Yeah, great. You're sitting in that bathtub in a yucky leg raise. It's not going to help you. It has nothing to do with the salt. It has everything to do with your yucky leg raise that you're multiplying. You don't even know it because nobody took the time to teach you this. Doctors don't teach you this stuff because they don't get reimbursed to teach you. They get reimbursed to treat you. The goal here is to coach you so you can begin to understand what you need to do. All right. So again, maybe in total do hamstring stretches, nerve glides, right? Yucky leg raises over and over again. Pushing on a clutch, pushing on a pedal, driving, probably going to be a problem. Down dog, probably not going to be a good thing. I think that's down dog. You know, if you are sleeping and your leg gets too straight out there, falls across your body, leg raise, you're not going to be able to sprint because it requires you to extend your leg in front of you. Leg raise, all leg raises. And again, this test is a very good screening test to determine if you're nervous sensitive. What we know is that as little as 12% stretch on a nerve can reduce blood supply to it. As little as 8% stretch to an angry nerve can cut off blood supply completely. Now, why does that matter and why should you care about that? Sure, like nerves like movement and they also like blood flow because inside the blood there's oxygen and nutrients, but they don't like to be tensioned. They don't like to be put on too much strain. And this is how that strain is showing up in your life. You reduce the blood supply. What is carried within the blood? Oxygen and nutrients. If you cut off the blood supply, you cut off the oxygen, you cut off the nutrients, the body does not do a great job at healing. Again, tell me you have trouble sitting on the couch. Tell me you have trouble driving. Tell me you hate nerve glides, and I can tell you have a yucky leg raise. Just flip it around. But Dr. Charlie, they told me my hamstrings were tight, and that's why I have back pain. Maybe you have back pain because you keep trying to stretch your tight hamstrings. Was there ever a time in your life where you had tight hamstrings and you had no pain? And now you still have tight hamstrings and you have pain. Tight hamstrings, no pain, pain. That is not the variable that's contributing to your problem. But again, because you go to someone, you pay someone to tell you what's wrong with you, because you have not been educated on how to figure this stuff out, not your fault, then they, the authority figure, will come up with some reason to treat you. And well, it sounds good in theory, right? The hamstrings, they pull on this, yucky leg raise. Willfully paying to have someone cut off blood supply to your sciatic nerve, reduce the oxygen and the nutrients, and make you worse. Not cool. All right. Back bend. Back bend, Charlie. That's the best exercise. That is the #1 exercise for a herniated disc. No, it's not. It could make you worse. Instead of trying to treat the disc problem, treat your yucky motions. How is that disc problem showing up in your life? Maybe when you bend backwards, it hurts. But the McKenzie method says that I just need to keep going. Yeah, I understand. I studied the McKenzie method just a little bit. All right. It might make you worse. It might keep you from healing. If you have a yucky back bend, laying on your belly might not be a great idea. Might not be a great idea. Working on your belly, yucky. Lots of times people with yucky back bends have trouble walking because you're moving closer to a back bend. If you have an anterior pelvic tilt, not that there's any problem with that, again, in and of itself, but just realize that having yourself in that position moves you closer to a back bend. So right now your back's a little sensitive to that, and we might want to find ways to change that up. If you have a yucky back bend, you are going to hate sitting up tall. But Dr. Charlie, you've got to sit up tall. It's the perfect posture, right? Everyone tells me that slouching is bad. Not if you have a yucky back bend. In fact, the worst thing you would want to do is buy one of those yoga balls, sit on the edge of your chair, and keep perfect posture if you have a yucky back bend. Why? Because it moves you closer to it. Don't listen to other people. Learn to listen to your body. This is an exercise, morphing motions, that can help you do that. Again, tell me you have trouble walking. Tell me you have pain doing a press up, because that's what your PT told you to do. Tell me that you hate sitting up tall. but you keep doing it because that's what you've been led to believe is the best thing for you. And I'll tell you, you got a yucky back bend. That stuff ain't gonna work. Or the chance of it working goes way down. Because again, you're putting yourself into more yuckiness. And you want to feel more yucky or more yummy? Only you can answer the question. All right. You got a yucky back bend? Charlie, I was doing the McGill Big Three and I was doing the bird dog. And I thought it was supposed to help me. Well, I hear what you say, but guess what? This person, right, in this case, is kicking their leg up a little higher than neutral. Their arms, right, they got a certain length, and you can see the sway in their back. You got a yucky back bend and you're doing something like this, it's going to keep you from getting better. The bird dog is going to be, it's going to make you a dead dog, a dead bird. You're going to feel trapped in a cage and feel like you can't improve because you're doing this exercise thinking it's what you need to do, when in actuality, it's just recreating your yucky motion with every single rep. Again, maybe you're paying someone, a McKenzie diplomat, a McKenzie specialist, a therapist, who's just going off the X-ray or MRI, herniated disc. Oh, well, we should do press-ups, right? Again, education. Disc problem, press-ups. Blindly applying these protocols or regimens without actually applying any logic to it. I've got a yucky back bend. And Charlie, they told me I should do this thing. I've been doing it for weeks, but it's just making me worse. I do 10 reps every 2 hours. And when I get in there, they apply overpressure to my back bend, my press-up, and it's not working. Why is it not working? It should work. I have a disc problem. Because you're going the wrong way. You're recreating yucky. And that person, they look really smart, but they might be making you worse. So I get all fired up about this because this stuff is really powerful, all right? There you have it. That is what I call morphing motions, right? And I've listed a few of the most common ways I see these motions show up for you in life, right? Because again, I've worked with thousands of people with these back butt sciatic problems. That's all I do. But oftentimes we need to do more detective work and dive deeper, all right? So the next step, right, is begin running experiments and learning new ways to move so that you can optimize the healing environment. And then you can take what you learn from changing things, tweaking things, gather clues, which then can inform you about how you're going to try on movement in the form of medicine. Right? So we talked about how to kind of shrink the left side, the yucky side of the scale, remove or subtract the yucky inputs so you can naturally tip the scale towards healing. It's almost there. Now, all we need to do is one or two things to put you towards healing, all right? To totally flip the scale and move you towards getting back to normal, all right? So that is what we call healing by subtraction. Again, what not to do is often more valuable than what to do. So one of the challenges to you is if you're going to that specialist locally, or heck, even if you're reaching out to me, or you're typing in the Google search bar, what exercises should I do for A? Best exercises for boom. Why not asking what exercises should I not do? What sitting position should I not do? What sleeping position should I avoid? Now, here's the thing. You don't want to just take it as a blanket answer whenever you do find that. You want to link things, just like I've helped you link things. Well, lots of times people tell me, Charlie, I went to a physical therapist and they told me slouching was terrible, that I need to sit up tall. And I was like, well, that's it. Well, why did they tell you that? Well, I don't know. They just told me that. And you just accepted it. Don't accept it. Why? Well, because, why? Well, because, and keep peeling back the layers. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Because if you got a yucky back bend, then sitting up tall will make you worse. A lot of times you'll find that slouching makes people feel much better. And so all this stuff is just a bunch of belief, but it's not backed by any logic. All right, so find what works best for you. Less is more. Again, we can heal by subtraction. You don't always have to do more. Healing doesn't have to be hard. All right, so here it is. This, again, is the pain relief process we talked just a little bit about today, and there's way more in-depth stuff we could talk about here, but a little bit about optimizing the physical healing environment. We didn't talk about the mental and or brain side of things, but that's also a component as well. We did not talk about self-assessment. We did not talk about really much of using movement and or mind as medicine, and we definitely didn't talk about prevention and all that. But again, this is the first, and I would argue most important step after working with over 10,000 people with back, butt, and sciatic issues. Do not overlook this. Do not jump and make the mistake of jumping right to using movement to solve the problem when you haven't even laid the foundation yet for figuring out why you hurt in the first place. All right. So look, if you're watching this, or if you watch this, you say, hey, this is really valuable. I like the way Dr. Charlie thinks about these things. I see his wheels turning, and I would love to kind of have a slice of that brain, in the sense of, if you had my brain, would you feel more or less confident in solving this problem? If you could think like this and decode things and break things down and kind of make the link between when I move, this happens, and when that happens, then it means I need to do this or that. If you're saying, hey, that would be really valuable, or at least you think it might be, and you're interested in learning how to fix yourself so you're not relying upon someone else, then I would invite you to apply to work with us. Now, we can't help everybody. I don't claim to know everything or be able to help everybody. And so as part of the process, you'll see the link below, again, in the comments or in the description. You click on that link, you set up a time to chat with us. There's no cost to the call. It's complimentary. I don't believe in charging people before we feel confident we can help them. Hopefully it sounds totally fair. And as part of that process, set up the call, you will be prompted to review a pre-call packet. Inside that pre-call packet, there are instructions to submit a case review. This case review gives me all the information that I need to determine if/how I can help. If I don't feel 100% confident I can help, I will just call you personally and or shoot you a message in some way, shape, or form and let you know that, and we can cancel the call. If we do feel we can help, we can talk about what that looks like and see if you're fit to work with us inside our glute relief accelerator program. So again, click the link below. Hopefully this was useful. Let me know, what was your yucky motion in the comments, right? If you have any questions or comments below. And again, if you want to apply to work with us and submit your case for review, just click the link and we'll be happy to look things over. Thanks so much. Chat soon.